7:14 on a cloudy Wednesday. Denis Dunderdale's here.
Good
How you
morning.
been, man? Arkansas Game and Fish Commission. And we want to welcome from the Fredberry Conservation District, listen to me, Education Center, Marilyn Duran. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to have you. How you been, Dennis?
Glad to be here.
have
Well,
you.
it's that time of year, you know, everybody's out on the lakes. Of course, I was out of state for the holiday weekend. I'm assuming the weather here was as miserable as it was where I was up in Kansas, but it was pretty bad. However, talking to the game wardens, there was still a bunch of boaters out there and carrying on. Of course, we want to take this opportunity to remind everybody that wearing PFD is absolutely critical.
Yeah.
And of course, it's the law. If you're under 13 years of age, if you've got anybody on board, they have to have a PFD, meaning a personal flotation device. Has to be
Properly rated for your weight.
exactly right. And it has to be U.S. Coast Guard approved. You have to look for that little label inside. If it doesn't have that label, then don't use it out on the water. And unfortunately, you know, there are places that sell them that look like they'd be a good life jacket, but they're not Coast Guard approved.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, Dale, that's right. They have to be approved for your weight and your chest size.
You know, don't go putting a 30-pound on a 50-pound kid. I mean, come on, use some common sense here. you know?
Right. And the law also states that you have to have an approved, properly sized life jacket for every person on board. Of course, the kids have to wear them. We hope that the adults do too.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the law doesn't make the adults wear them. But they do require that you have them on board, you know, and sometimes the game wardens will pull up to a boat and there'll be a couple of guys out. Maybe they forgot their life jacket, and maybe they were out with the kids the day before, you know, and so they'll pull up this little kid's, you know, 4-year-old size life jacket, and they'll say, well, you know, here's my life jacket. You know,
Oh, yeah, right.
Then the game warden will usually take that opportunity to say, well, I'd like to see you put that on, please.
Strap it around your left ankle, right?
Right. So it's a
At least
big
your foot won't drown.
it's a big deal, and of course, like I said, you know, kids under 13, they by law must wear them, and they should. You know, so it would,
Oh, I got to tell you, you know, you were out of town over the weekend. I went to Fayetteville on Monday and came back in all those storms. I left Fayetteville about 7 o'clock. The lightning was so pretty, though.
Is that
you know? Well, you know, the storms were heading south to north, and I was heading east on 412 and 62. The lightning was basically behind me, and it was so neat to see those farms over there. You know, the beautiful farms in northwest Arkansas. But the lightning was almost like a big black light. And when it would light up, those fields were just as green as Dublin on St. Patrick's Day. It was beautiful.
man, that's great.
Hey, I want to ask you about the Student Conservation Scholarship. Is that coming to a close pretty soon?
It is actually, you know, and it's interesting. There, it seems like there's small pockets of people that know about this, and we're trying to get the word out. But the Game and Fish Commission offers a student scholarship program for any student, have to be a resident of Arkansas, of course, who's studying or planning to study, if they're a senior in high school or if they're already in college in an accredited Arkansas university studying in one of the conservation fields of study. And of course, our website, you know, has every one of those fields that are listed. I can't remember them all. But the application deadline closes June 20th, which is remarkably late for scholarship applications.
What date?
June 20th.
Wow.
They can apply all the way up till June 20th. There's a couple of things unique about this program. That's one of them, how late the application is open. The other one is that students with a 2.5 GPA or better are eligible. In a lot of cases, it's 3.0. And students that are, let me see if I can remember the award amounts. I want to say high school students and freshmen can get up to $1,000 a semester.
Wow.
It may be freshmen and sophomores. And then juniors and seniors can get $1,500. And then graduate students can get $2,000, and that's per semester, and that's renewable for 8 semesters.
Now,
So
isn't
there's
the
some money,
license plate fund some of that scholarship?
It does. The conservation license plate, a lot of you have probably seen those. This year it's the smallmouth bass. Last year I believe it was the squirrel. I know I've got the rainbow trout. But it does. That costs $35 above and beyond the regular registration fee. And we give the Department of Finance and Administration 10 of those $35, and then the remaining 25 goes into this
That's
program.
good.
Yeah, so that's a large portion of the funding mechanism for that scholarship program.
I've got the website pulled up. It's www.agfc.com. Then you go to education. It brings down the drop-down box and brings up conservation scholarship. You click on that.
Right.
And the information that is saying here is be sure that your official transcript includes grades from spring, 2015 semester. Apparently, that's why you're running through June 20th, is to make sure that those grades,
Exactly.
once they're posted official
Right.
in the transcript, will be eligible for the Conservation Scholarship. So
Right.
you can get all the information for the Conservation Scholarship by going to www.agfc.com, clicking on the Education drop-down box.
Exactly right. Well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. And because Marilyn is here, and Marilyn is my partner of sorts, and I don't want to take your thunder, Marilyn, but she and I work in a sort of a partnership way. She runs the Fredberry Conservation Education Center, which has all the education programs where people come to them, and then of course I do the outreach where we go out to the people. So Marilyn and I work closely. We've got a bunch of stuff going on over there, and Marilyn, you tell them about it because you're the one just kind of has that going.
Okay, well, we have had a very, very busy spring with school field trips, and that's winding down since school is about to be dismissed for the summer. But we try not to let up and stop serving the public then, so we've scheduled several things for children to do through the summer programs. They begin on June 16th. They'll go through the end of July. We hold programs in the mornings from 9 until 11 on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Tuesdays we call Target Tuesday, and kids can come out and shoot bows and shoot BB guns, and we'll teach safety, how to do that safely. We'll teach technique and let them just practice their target shooting. This is about, I think this will be the third or fourth year that we've done this, and that's a very popular program, the Target Tuesday. And then also on Wednesdays, we do Wild Wednesday, and that'll will cover topics on wildlife or outdoor activities, also 9 to 11 each Wednesday. The first one on June 17th will be Wild about elk. The following Wednesday is Wild about Crooked Creek. We'll have programs on hiking, on songbirds, bats, reptiles, nature crafts. Sometimes we'll have live animals there on some of the programming.
Do I get to bring my alligator again this year?
No gator this year.
No gator this year. We're all booked up with other critters,
the
huh?
last 2 years.
Yeah.
Always a popular animal, but not this year. And then Fridays, that's Fishing Friday, and we have catfishing in our pond, and we provide the gear and the bait. Kids are welcome to bring their own gear with them. But that's a really fun time. We have a lot of fish stocked in the pond, channel cat, and it's catch and release.
I bet the kids have a blast.
Oh, it's so much fun to watch a kid catch their first fish. But one thing that we require is that an adult come with the kid. It's not a drop-off program.
Right.
We don't care if an adult brings 10 kids, but there needs to be an adult there in charge of those children.
Sure. You know what I really love about these programs, aside from the fact that they're fun, but they're unlike a lot of the types of activities or interactive activities that some organizations have. We actually teach the kids the basics to start them off properly with the proper technique,
There you go.
whether it's archery or whether it's shooting or whether it's fishing or something else. It's not just a time to let them have fun and occupy, although it is fun, but they usually walk away with, I mean, we're not going to turn them into field experts, but we do point them in the right direction and give them the basic foundation that they can
We
then
give
go
them
build
that
on.
spark, that
Mhm.
that first interest. I mean,
Yeah.
catching your first fish, some kids are hooked for life. So to speak,
Sure,
once they do
sure,
that.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it sure is. Yeah. So,
But look, here's the positive I see here. I guarantee you at your catfishing pond, there's no sign up there that says free Wi-Fi.
No.
You know what I'm saying, Dennis?
yeah, as a matter of fact, actually, you know, we used to have this. I don't know if it's still a formal program, but it's kind of a buzzword that we use called, instead of the No Child Left Behind, you know, which that's it certainly has drawn a lot of comments. Well, we have one that, or at least we talk about No Child Left Inside.
There you go.
And that's kind of the whole point, is to give these kids the opportunity to get back to basics, get back to nature, but not just in the clichéic way, to actually teach them some of the valuable information that they can get out
No.
of it.
We have a classroom at the Fredberry Center that we use for some of the programming, but we have 420 acres there, and almost everything we do with kids or adults or whatever, almost everything is outdoors. We have trails. We have almost 6 miles of trails.
I was
we
starting
have
to
a
say, where do you
3D
hike?
We have a
Yeah.
3D archery course that's free for the public to use. All they have to do is just call us up or come by and let us know that they want to go back and use that. There are 10 lanes. It's becoming more and more popular. We have access to Crooked Creek for premier smallmouth fishing. We have a lot of things for adults to enjoy too, but we really want to focus on kids with these summer programs.
Right.
Get them out there, give them something to do through the summer. It doesn't cost anything; it's free, and they don't have to pre-register. They just wake up and get them out there at 9 o'clock.
Right, and if like many places in Arkansas, at least in this part of Arkansas, where you're not hearing too many quail anymore, go for a hike at the Fred Berry Center.
Good.
Well, Marilyn has
Stir some up.
she's procured a grant and has worked out a program to replace a lot of the fescue and Bermuda grass, because this used to be a cattle farm at one time, and is replacing a lot of that with native grasses and tall grasses, and creating a habitat that's just superb. And now we go out there, and all day long, all you hear are the bobwhite whistling. You see a lot of other wildlife too. There's tons of deer and.
Well, what about the
Just about-
whippoorwills? I haven't heard a lot of those yet. Is that
I
normally?
haven't heard many yet.
I think I heard one, and I've got woods behind my house. I thought I heard one the other night, but we used to have, 2 or 3 that just get to hooping and hollering during the night.
Now I do hear them down in the national forest, like a lot. I did a lot of turkey hunting down there this year, and as soon as the sun goes down until it comes back up again in the morning, you can just hear them everywhere. But I haven't heard too many in this area.
What about the wild turkey population?
It's coming back. I don't have numbers for this year yet. Of course, our season just closed, but we're highly encouraged with the brood population. Poults are up. We've had decent weather. We haven't had any catastrophic floods in the last few years. Plus, although we took a lot of heat for it, shortening the season and moving it back a little bit until the toms have finished breeding before the season's opened on them really seems to have paid off. So
It seems like I'm seeing more and more bald eagles.
yeah, and I don't have any real information on that, but I am too. Marilyn, you might know. A little
I don't
more
have
about
any
that.
data on it at all, but yeah, I do see more. And of course, they nest in Arkansas, and for many years they did not.
Right.
I know there's been a nest out here on the Panther Bay area. We get
Yes.
pictures on the Facebook, and people drive by because you don't want to disturb. Of course, it's up in the air, you're not going to bother it, but still.
Right.
I was going Thanksgiving, I was going down to Conway, and I was on Highway 14, and there was a dead deer off the side of the road that the birds were picking meat off of. One of them just happened to be an eagle, and when he took off, he actually started flying towards my vehicle in the other lane.
I'll be done.
And that neck on that eagle was about the size of a pint Kermason jar.
No, that's just not something you
Beautiful.
see every day,
No,
is it?
I'll never forget that. A beautiful sight.
Talk about better than a video game.
Wow. I wish I would have had my dash cam running.
Well, I know I do a fair amount of fishing on the White and the Norfolk River, and I know of between, let's see if I can actually pinpoint this, from about Hearsts or somewhere in that, that part just above Cotter, and I know of 1, 2, 3, I know of 5 eagle nests
Good.
between there and just above Buffalo City.
Good.
Yeah, and because I think there's 2 right in Cotter, one above the new bridge and one below the old bridge.
Good.
Yeah.
And we've had a few black bear spotting, here in town.
Oh, is that right?
I
It's
haven't had
the
a-
time of year for that.
We
Yeah.
had a cub, a 1-year-old, 1 or 2-year-old, out roaming Indian Creek a couple weeks ago, I heard.
Yeah.
This time of year, the sows chase the young males away, and they're out trying to fend for themselves now, and they're the ones that end up getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, the boys have to leave. And it's kind of like giving your 12-year-old the keys to the car and say, okay, you're on your own now. They're probably not going to go to the library and study.
We've got about 40 seconds before we finish up this first part of the show. Final thoughts before we go to the news. Anybody? Marilyn?
I would like to tell about our fishing derby that's coming up on June 6th at the Fred Berry Center. It's at our catfish pond. It's from 9 until noon. Kids can bring their own gear if they like, or we'll provide the gear and the bait. And that's a fun time, too. We'll be drawing for some prizes. We'll have some fishing rods and tackle boxes and things that we'll
And
give
give the
away.
location for folks that really don't know.
Okay, it's as you go west of Yellville, turn left on Marion County 4002, just past our Chamber of Commerce at Yellville. It's about a mile to the creek, cross the bridge, and drive up to our building.
If you know where Kelly's Slab is, go there. You'll find it.
Yeah. All right. It's time for the news. We'll be right back. Stick around. 7:35 with Denis Dunderdale, Arkansas Game and Fish, and Marilyn Duran from the Fedbury Conservation Education Center in Yellowville.
So, Marilyn, we have that first Saturday program. That's the first year that we've done that. And it's worked out pretty well, I think. I mean, we'd like to have seen some more participation on some of those. But what are some of the other ones we have coming
Yeah,
up?
this is a new series for adults. I had been getting some comments from adults about what we offered for them in the way of programming, and we do things occasionally, but nothing that we'd offered regularly. So we're piloting this year the first Saturday series of programs, and on the first Saturday of each month during the morning, we offer programs on a different topic. I think the first one we did was on frogs in winter, and then we did one on predator trapping, and then we offered one on turkey hunting and turkey calls, and the participants got to make a turkey call and learn how to use it. So these are introductory type programs to various topics. The one that's coming up for this month on June 6th, Dennis, you'll be teaching on fly fishing.
Yep.
And that one is from 9 until about 10:30 or 11.
Right.
Hour and a half to 2 hours for the programs. Most of these run from 10 to 11:30, but through the summer in June and August, it's so hot we'll start a little bit earlier on 9 o'clock. There won't be one in July because that falls on July 4th.
Right.
In August, we'll be teaching lessons on using a compass. Lots of people have told us that they just don't know how to use one and they'd like to learn. So it's going to be using a compass, and then in September, archery, and that's just basic target archery with the Matthews Genesis bows. Then in October, we're going to be teaching about bow hunting basics. And then November and December, we've got a couple of things: knot tying for the outdoors in November and winter bird feeding in December. But again, these are free, doesn't cost anything to join. Most of them don't require registration. You just show up at the center at the proper time and learn about some outdoor adventure.
Enough to whet the appetite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the fly fishing one because we do a fair amount of those types of programs in different places, and fly fishing is my personal passion, so I just love anything having to do
Well, and
with
they
that.
can learn things about what kind of equipment they need,
Right.
the technique. What else are you going to cover?
Well, actually, yeah, we'll cover that. We'll talk about the basic equipment, because fly fishing is, well, it's like any other kind of outdoor activity. If you're a gadget junkie, fly fishing is the thing you need to get into, because there's a bunch of stuff you can get. And of course, we're not going to get deep into
You
that.
tie your
but
own flies?
I do.
Do you?
Yeah. And that's a specialty unto itself, too. And because it's so specialized, we probably won't have time to get into that on that day. But we will talk about the different types of flies and the general categories of flies and their uses, and when you might use this one versus that one. And that's usually that and casting are the two things that usually hang most people up.
Well, what's the advantage of fly fishing over just a standard casting rod? Say a closed reel.
Well, it's really about what the fish eat. 90% of a fish's diet is going to be something really tiny, something too tiny to throw with a spinning rod. So in spin fishing, what you're throwing is the weight. You have a plug or a spoon or whatever, and you're throwing that with a fairly short, compared to a fly rod, a short lever with a relatively lightweight or weightless line attached to it so that you can reel it back in. Fly fishing, you don't have that. There's no weight in the bait itself. It's virtually weightless. So the weight is in the line itself, which is why it looks like spaghetti, why it's so heavy. And the technique is to throw the line, not the fly. And by doing that, you're able to throw something that's going to appeal to 90% of the fish's diet. And that's the major advantage. Now, of course, there are fish that are going to eat big things moving fast in the water, and bass fishermen know a lot about that sort of thing. But 90% of the fish's diet is going to be small stuff, and it's going to be under the surface.
Now, what fish do you target? You go for smallmouth or striped?
You can fly fish for anything that swims, and I have personally. I mean, I've fished all over the world for tarpon and sharks and all kinds of stuff. But locally, most folks think of fly fishing as a trout game, and it is primarily. But I fish for bass, smallmouth fishing on Crooked Creek for. The fly fishing for smallmouth on Crooked Creek is a lot of fun, and people really should try that. We're trying to put together a program actually dedicated just to that, and we're pretty sure we'll get that done this spring. But you can fish for, if you have a farm pond with crappie or brim or something like that, that's a lot of fun. Bass fishing, of course, is a lot of fun. Stripers up on the lake. I was telling you earlier how I used to go up there and we'd try to catch it. And once in a while we'd catch one of those big stripers on a fly rod. So anything really that, if you can get a bait to it, you can catch it on a fly rod. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So now when will Dennis be teaching it?
That's June 6th, first Saturday of the month at 9 o'clock.
That's
Go
coming
for
up, isn't it?
A couple of hours, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what, a week from Saturday it looks like.
Yeah. So we'll do that. We'll cover the basics, equipment. We'll talk about flies, and then we'll actually get out on the lawn and we'll do some casting and teach folks the basics on.
There's a technique to fly fishing.
There
right?
is. Yeah, there sure is. Yeah. Yeah. And we'll teach them that technique, and that's where most folks kind of go wrong, is they just go buy themselves a rod and then start waving it around and teach themselves a lot of bad habits. Like folks who golf. You know, people go buy a golf club and then just start swinging it. Well, I'm not a big golfer, but but I know enough about it to know that there's a proper technique, and anything but the proper technique is probably going to get you in trouble. And we'll teach the proper technique for picking up and laying down fly rods.
Is there a certain size of rod, weight, reel? What do you look for? You look for
Well,
fiberglass? Or
No, graphite is
Graphite.
the predominant material now. The weights, of course, to get into describing how the weight system works would take more time than we have here today. But if you were going to buy a rod, you'd probably want to start off with a 5-weight or a 6-weight, which is kind of middle of the road. You know, they make real light, tiny stuff, and they make real big, heavy stuff. And for most of what you're going to do around here, you'll want something in the middle, and that would be a 5-weight or maybe a 4-weight or a 6-weight, somewhere in that. And that's kind of a general all-purpose. Yep.
Something I got to ask. Yesterday in my backyard, I had a black snake about 4 foot long. He's a grandpa, let me tell you. He's a doozy.
Really?
Yeah, but didn't kill him. I chased
Good.
him around the
Good,
side of
yeah.
the barn.
Good. Yeah.
He's a good guy.
I started to say he's a mouser and a ratter, right?
He's probably a black rat if it was all black, but it could have been a speckled king or,
Well, the top side was black, and the bottom side was
Light colored.
yeah.
And kind of a heavy snake.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say it was a black rat snake.
That's what I thought. I looked it up online. I thought it was black rat. Yeah.
And they are friendly. I mean, I don't know about friendly. I don't mean to say that.
Well, he didn't offer to shake my hand.
Yeah, no. I mean, you don't want to invite them in for dinner. but they do. They dine on rodents and things and rats and obviously the name. But yeah, you don't want to be killing those. That's a funny thing you say that. A lot of folks, we hear them say, "Oh, I kill every snake that I see," and really try to stay away from that habit. Of course, we're not telling you don't protect yourself from a venomous snake, and a lot of folks don't know which are venomous and which aren't, so they just err on the side of caution and kill any snake they see. But when they do that, number one, they are breaking the law, but way beyond that, they're also taking animals that are really doing them a whole lot more good than they realize when they do that. So we encourage folks to just leave the snakes alone, and they'll probably leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have things around your house, bushes and plants, things that'll attract what they're trying to eat, like voles or mice or that sort of stuff, we'll clear that away from the house, and don't put those types of plantings near the front door, and you probably won't have snakes there trying to feed them.
He was minding his own business. He was right there in the shade of the maple tree, at the edge of the sunlight, and I apparently had walked right past him and didn't see him. I went into the barn and then came out and thought, oh my goodness, and that's the highest I've jumped in 20 years. But I just kindly chased him. I got the hoe, and I knew that I wasn't going to kill him. I took the blade of the hoe and moved him, tickled his tail a bit, and he just slithered on around the barn. I thought, well, that's a black rat, so I don't want to take him out of the game.
Probably was. Yeah.
So, well, we'll go ahead and take a quick break. And we're visiting with Denis Dunderdale and Marilyn Duran. And stick around once I get the right button here. There we go. We'll be right back. 7:47 on, looks like the last Wednesday of May. We got cloudy conditions here at Mountain Home, visiting with Dennis and Marilyn here. So what else we need to talk about?
Well, I would like to provide our phone number and website. If people need more information about our programs, they can give us a call. If they want to just check our calendar, that's online. The website is fredberrycec.com. And Berry is spelled Berry. fredberrycec.com. And we have a calendar there. And our phone number is 870-449-3484.
I'm writing this down. 449?
449-3484.
3485. Dennis, you do the talking. I'm going to cue this up.
And
so we
there's a
look at it.
link to that also on the Game and Fish Master website,
Yes.
correct? Right, which is that's real simple to remember. That's AGFC, ArkansasGameFishCommission.com. And if you go to the education link, you'll see a pull down, and it'll take you to a bunch of places, including the education centers where you can find Fred Berry along with
There
the other
it is.
education
Wow,
centers.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, we have a couple of, while you're on that page, you can also follow those links to either boating education or hunter education, depending what you're looking for, because this is
Sure.
boating education season that we're in right now. We have 2 classes in this area coming up.
Did you say boating?
Boating, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to cue that up here.
Yep. One of them is at the library on June 25th from 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock. That's a 6-hour class. The boating education is 6 hours of class time. And then Corporal Tim Davenport, one of our Marion County game wardens, he'll be putting one together on June 20th. And that will be at the Lakeview Pavilion up there on Route 178, just before you get to the turnoff, into Gaston's on the right-hand side. Again, pick that up. I don't know if that one's on our website yet. He just scheduled that yesterday, so it may not be on the website yet today, but it will be soon. And so those are 2 classes right in the area. And then, of course, if you need a class in a hurry, we also have the opportunity to take the course online. Because
Really?
it costs $25. Unfortunately, that's not a Game and Fish charge. That's charged by the company who owns the website that runs that.
Well, and Dennis, they have to take the written test, even if they do that, and we can administer the test at the Fred Berry Center.
Good.
All they have to do is call us.
Yep, that's
and
right.
set up an
So you
appointment.
can get the lecture online, but take the test at the center. Is
Yeah,
that what you're saying?
that's right. There's 6 chapters in there, and each chapter has a little quiz, and then at the end of the 6th chapter quiz, there's a comprehensive quiz, a 50-question quiz. When you get done with all of that, it tells you to print out a voucher after you give a credit
Yeah.
card number. Then you take that voucher to us, to either the Fred Berry Center. There are other places, too, and they're all listed on the website, where you come and you take a 75-question test. And upon completion of that test, we hand you a temporary card, and then we send the information to Little Rock, and a couple of weeks later, they'll mail you your permanent card. So that's a good way to do it if you need one in a hurry, and that gets a good workout this time of year. Folks come in and they have visitors from out of town come into the lake house and want to take out the jet ski, which, because you have to be 16 to do that, but they
Now,
want to
do
borrow
do I need the boater education card to rent a jet ski for an afternoon?
to rent a jet ski. Yes, you need a boater education card, and in order to rent a jet ski, you have to be 18. So it's kind of like renting a car. There are additional rules for rental, just that apply to that. But yes, you do need that to operate any motorized or sail-driven watercraft. Yep.
Good.
Yep.
What else? We could spend forever on everything here.
We probably ought to do that
Hunter
sometime.
education, boating education. Let's look at the events calendar. Now, this is for the Fred Berry Center. Blah, 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 blah.
Well,
Okay.
one thing we were talking about just a little while ago, it's kind of season specific, is there are lots of baby animals out there right now.
Oh, right, yeah. Sure is.
And,
Okay, I've got to ask this question. Friday the 29th, alligator feeding Little Rock. What's that mean?
Alligator feeding in Little Rock. I know they do that in.
And it's got a green box beside it.
I didn't realize.
That's a brave person.
Well,
it's a small gator.
they do have baby alligators at the Little Rock Nature Center. Actually, I've got one here in Mountain Home that I take around to folks. But
Bring your own puppy.
yeah, ooh. They evidently have a program where they'll feed the alligator and the public gets to watch.
You
But
have an alligator?
I do, yeah. I keep it right here in Mountain Home, and many folks. I'll go through Walmart and all the little kids from school are, hey, Mom, there's the Gator Man. And we take it around because alligators are native to Arkansas,
Yeah.
so we do a program.
What's their
that-
most natural part of the state? Southeast?
Pretty much south of I-40 is probably a good way to think of it. They have been found north of that. In
Really?
fact, we found them up as far as somebody said they found one in Jonesboro. I don't know if that was transplanted or if it actually came that far up, but they'll come across I-40 and get up in some of those sloughs and waterways. But the further south you go, the more you'll find them. Down on Millwood Lake, down by Hope, zillions of them. I mean, just
Really? In Southwest?
Mm-hmm. And South Arkansas as well. I mean, not just Southwest, but
Because I would figure there'd be more like Louisiana in like the southeast part of the state where it's more flat in Delta. rather than a little bit of the mountains around Hope. Well, you're pretty well getting
Well, you
south of the mountain ranges, I guess, in Hope. aren't
well,
you?
you're getting down in the Grand Prairie, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I mean, they're down there, yeah. And they're also down in Peckerwood, which that's down in southeast, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah,
Down that way. But anyway, yeah,
they're in
they're
the southeast part of the
they're-
state in many years.
They're there. Yep,
Yeah.
they sure are down around Monticello and just all over any place where there's any swampy habitat for alligators. They're a fascinating creature.
Yeah, people all over the state are interested in them. We get a lot of interest in
Yeah.
programs. You do.
Yeah, we really do. Marilyn, you brought up a good point, and it's really worth mentioning. I'd like to hear you expand on that a little bit. And that's about people who find this time of year, we find a lot of orphaned animals, whether it's fawns or any critter, this time of year. And of course, oftentimes I'll have it at Mountain Home. Marilyn, you get it over at
Yes, we
Fred
get
Berry.
calls about people who find a fawn they're worried about. And many times, in fact, most of the time, when people find a fawn alone, it is not an orphan. The doe goes off to browse, and she leaves the fawn, who just instinctively stays there alone, usually very still and hidden and hopefully camouflaged. And she can be gone for hours. So you don't need to be alarmed just because he's been laying there
And
alone.
do
for a
not
while.
touch the fawn.
Do not touch them. Just leave them alone.
Right.
I made the point earlier, if you actually see the doe killed, like she's hit by a car on the highway, and you know there is no doe there to care for the fawn, then if you feel the need to try to save that fawn, we have rehabilitators. It's now against the law to take it into your own possession and try to raise it and keep it. But if you
Doesn't
can
the law
contact-
state you cannot remove, even if you know it's an orphan fawn, you cannot remove it from its bed?
Right.
Am I correct?
I don't know
I
if it's a
don't
law
know
about
if
the
it's-
removing it from the bed, but there is a law saying that you cannot hold one captive.
Yeah.
And that's a fairly new law. You used to be
Yeah.
able to actually have some, there was a number up to which you could have, but now it's just simply illegal to captivate and to raise a deer as a pet.
Final 30 seconds, folks. It's been good to have Marilyn and Dennis both here, and look forward to y'all being back here in June.
If you want to register for that boating education class at the library, you need to do that on the library's website, which I probably should know their URL off the top of my head, but I don't. But it's the Baxter County. It's the Donald W. Reynolds Library serving Baxter County is their official name. And if you either call them or go to their website, you can follow the links to register for that. Or call me at area code 870-321-5548.
And that wraps it up. Appreciate you being here with us today. And coming up, we have the Sean Handy Daily Update, followed by Glenn Beck. We'll see you tomorrow.